experts in the country. We've got Tony Ammirato. Tony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today, Tom. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. Hey, do you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself, and then let's just jump right back in. Let's jump into our content.
Sure, absolutely. So for those of you who were on a couple of weeks ago, this might be a little bit of a repeat. Tom and I have known each other for several years. I come from the new homes background. I am the vice president for a company called the Rhiness Company. We're going to pop our report up here on the screen here before the end of the call. But new homes is kind of my gig. I've had a very successful career in new home sales as a salesperson and in management. And I've seen a couple different market cycles now. And I'm here to help the team. I'm actually part of your all team right now. I joined EXP with Tom probably about 3 or 4 months ago. So I'm proud to be here and happy to contribute whatever little bit of unique knowledge I have to the team here.
Well, awesome. And, you know, the market is definitely shifting and challenging. And so one of the things that I'm seeing is there's consistent new home inventory, because obviously inventory overall is down, but I'm seeing new home inventory is consistent. So there's just so much opportunity for all of us to continue to make sales and take advantage of the new home construction inventory. So Tony, I'm going to turn it over to you. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. So I want to give a quick little, recap of what we did a couple of weeks ago. So it's a refresher for those of you who are here and new information for those of you who weren't. But as Tom mentioned, as you've all experienced, inventory is a top of mind topic these days. We all know that with interest rates doing what they've done over the last couple of years, we're kind of getting the 1-2 punch. They're lowering our buyers' buying power, and they're keeping our sellers in their homes because nobody wants to give up the 3% interest rate. So what are we going to do for inventory? Well, we're going to have to build it. And the new home sector in general, nationally, typically of 100% of home sales that happens throughout the year, about 15% roughly on a national average is the contribution from the new home sector. That number has more than doubled in many markets, including ours here in Sacramento. In fact, looks like we've got the Rhiness report here. If whoever's going to pop that up, you'll probably want to skip to I think it's page 20 where the Sacramento report is. But what you're going to see is that year over year, it's a good even 100% increase this last week in new home sales. This week, or last week rather, this time last year was 50 sales for the region. It was a cool 100. In fact, year to date, we're over 200% year over year new home sales compared to what we were just a year ago. Now, that is taken with a bit of a grain of salt, because one of the uniquenesses from last year's market is there were an absolute ton of cancellations, almost 40% industry-wide. And that's because it was taking several months to build homes. And when someone goes into contract for a new home builder, they get pre-qualified up front. And if they're getting pre-qualified in February and the home delivers in October and rates have gone up 2 points in the interim, it caused a lot of people to no longer qualify. So there was a huge number of cancellations that had to be resold last year. So that does kind of skew the numbers a bit. This is the Rhiness report. This is actually the Northern California report. So this is the Bay Area. If we want to go ahead and scroll down, I think it was page 20, you'll see the Sacramento area report. So if you want to scroll down there, I think it was 20. Let's keep going. This actually has Sacramento, the Central Valley. While we're getting here, for those of you that don't know, the Rhiness Company has been around since about the 1970s. This report predates the internet. And for many, many years, and even still today, it's the measuring stick in which many builders, compare themselves to their competition. So some of the things we track here are sales, traffic, cancellations, conversion numbers, and so on. Let's go, up just a little bit. Looks like you're on Sacramento. Okay, there we go. So just a little bit more. There you go. Perfect. So if we look here in this weekly totals, where it says current weekly totals, that first thing you're going to see is a sales to traffic conversion number of 14-1. You look below it, a year ago, that was 23-1. So what that basically means is we're selling more houses on less traffic. And if you scroll across, go all the way to the end there, net sales, there's 100 net sales in our region this week compared to 50 last year. And look at the cancellations. I was just mentioning how many cancellations we took last year. There were 24 cancellations that we had this past week compared to 45 last week. So, I mean, just a quick snapshot here, you can tell the new home sector is definitely filling the gap when it comes to inventory. And if you're working with new home builders, you're in the right place to be right now because that's where you're going to get the inventory. It's also where you're going to get help for your buyers. So on that, let's go back to just kind of recapping a few of the things that we did the first time around and what we'll call 1.0. And what we talked about were the 6 reasons why you want to work with home builders right now and 3 tips when working with home builders. So I'm going to just go through that briefly, and then we're going to pick up right there where we left off.
Are you done with this report?
Yeah, you can go ahead and take that down, Tom. Thanks.
Okay.
So real quick. So the first thing is inventory. We just kind of touched on that a little bit. That's, new homes, we have to build it. That's where it's going to come from. The second thing is all the benefits that come with a new house, right? It's brand new, it's under warranty, it's energy efficient. Your buyers aren't paying, $1,000, $1,500 on inspections for a house they're not going to end up buying because it falls apart during the request for repairs. It's just a much, much cleaner transaction. Number 3 is the incentives. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail, but your incentives, as we talked about the last time around, home builders are here to help you with that 1-2 punch I mentioned earlier. Interest rates are obviously the catalyst that's causing our market shift right now. And home builders are willing to help you with that with big incentives. And that's one of the main reasons why you want to be working with home builders, especially now in the fourth quarter. And we'll graze on that again here in a second. But just out of curiosity, now I like to be interactive, so don't be shy out there. Does anybody know roughly, kind of the rough rule of thumb of what the cost is to buy down your interest rate on a permanent basis? So if I want 0.25% in permanent interest rate reduction, does anybody have any idea or want to take a stab at roughly what that cost is to the consumer to get a 1/4 point reduction in your interest rate?
I'm just going to throw out $5,000.
I thought it's like 1%. 1% of loan value buys down 1/4% or something like that.
Great job, Eric. Exactly correct. So the rough rule of thumb is for every 1/4 point in permanent rate buy down is going to cost you a point of your loan amount. So a $500,000 loan amount, it's going to cost you $5,000 for a 1/4 point.
So I got it right.
Yeah. So yes. Yeah. In that, Tom, in that example, you were absolutely perfect. Great job. So, most of you have probably seen, and we talked about this a little bit a week ago, home builders right now, it's the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, it's deal time for home builders because it's their year end. Whether they're on the fiscal year like Lennar or the calendar year like most builders are, this is it. And home builders need to sell houses every week, every month, and they have year-end numbers they need to make. And guess what happens at the end of the year when they're short? It's deal time. So many of you have probably seen companies like Lennar and KB addressing the interest rate issue by doing what they call a forward commitment. They've paid thousands and thousands of dollars to reserve a block of money that's to be used only for their home buyers. Now, has anybody seen this? Does anybody know what KB and Lennar and the likes of them, do you know what they're buying those interest rates down to right now? It's in the mid-5s.
Mid-5s.
They're buying it down to the mid-5s. Now, Gary Ryness, the founder of our company, made predictions every year, and it was kind of a staple in the business. And over the last 2 years, I've been honored to take up that role. And I've made some pretty accurate predictions over the last year. One that I unfortunately was not very well, I guess fortunately, was not right on, is I had predicted interest rates would hit 8% by April 1st of this year. Happy to say I was wrong. Not so happy to say I saw on the news last night they hit 8% yesterday. So we are at 8%. If you have a builder like Lennar or KB buying down your interest rate to 5.5% from 8%, does anybody want to do the quick math at that at $5,000 times 1/4 point times what? 2.5 points, 3 points? You're talking $30,000, $40,000. How many resale sellers are out there throwing a $40,000 concession to help sell their house?
Not very many.
Not very many. Okay, so incentives is huge. Go ahead, Patrick.
I said less than there should be. More should be
Right.
doing that.
And that's actually, we'll get to that in the end too, because for the people who were on last week, I like to talk about thinking like a home builder. Now, without taking us off topic here, that is one of the areas that always puts a smile on my face when I see a resale agent that is taking a page out of the new home book. And they're talking to their sellers up front about, when we're setting our price, let's build in a $10,000 incentive to help buy down that rate to get your house sold. Build that in up front. That's who you're competing with out there. If you're listing resale, that's who you're competing with out there in the new home arena. So that was number 3, was incentives. Number 4, there's typically no bidding wars. I've heard that several times over the last few months, especially at the lower price points where you're having first-time buyers fighting it out with 1031 exchange investors. And, if you're under 550, that's, you guys know, it's an aggressive purchase price, it's a purchase point. And, you are seeing some bidding wars there. But in new homes, typically, it's just not something we see. Every once in a while, because again, keeping in the spirit of thinking like a home builder, we would rather sell 5 houses than have 5 people fighting it out for 1 house. So you typically don't have bidding wars. It will be one of the easiest sales you will have all year working with a home builder. I promise you, if you do this right, you are not writing a contract, you are not doing any inspections, you are not doing any requests for repairs. It will be one of the easiest transactions you have all year if you do it right and don't make the mistakes that we'll talk in our next 3 tips. And the number 6 reason, big commissions right now, and they need us. I mentioned last time around, over the years, I've had many agents and brokers contact me saying it's frustrating working with home builders. Sometimes they want to work with us, sometimes they don't. They only pay us when they need us. And again, that's absolutely correct. The good news right now, though, is they need you. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Elliott Homes is actually broker co-oping right now. And it's the first time in my 20+ year career I've ever seen that happen. So they absolutely need us right now. Even though sales are up, buyers are still hard to come by with the rates, and they absolutely need you right now. So that was the top 6. Inventory, they're brand new and under warranty, all the benefits of new home. They've got incentives, no bidding wars. It'll be one of the easiest sales you'll have all year, and big commissions. Now, the 3 tips when you're working with home builders. Patrick, I know you were on last time. I know you're probably going to get this, not to put you on the spot, but does anybody remember, Patrick, what the number 1 mistake is that most resale agents make when working with brokers? I think you got this right the first time.
Yeah, you send them out there without you, and they sign in before you have a chance.
Absolutely correct. That is the number 1 mistake in my career. I have seen more and more and more is, agents don't educate their buyers to not go out to the new homes community without them. And I know it's tough. Sometimes they're on their way to, grandma's house or Home Depot and they want to stop in. Don't do it. It's a bad move. Make sure you are educating your buyers to not go out to a new homes community without you. The go-to has always been, you have to be with your client on the first visit to show that you are the procuring cause. Remember, home builders pay for referrals, not representation. You're absolutely representing your client rather, but the difference between a referral and representation is that referrals are time sensitive. They need to know that you are the reason that buyer is in their office. Now,
Hey, Tony, real quick, we've got something in the comments. Lennar
Sure.
doesn't pay commission to agents. Could you speak to that, please, real quick? Don't mean to throw you off, but
yeah, no, it's okay.
I mean, interactive.
It's unfortunately, as I mentioned, that's part of one of the frustrations is working with home builders. Sometimes they love you, sometimes they don't. This time last year, Lennar was paying 5% commissions. And I suspect they probably still are on some of their communities where they need the help. And that's where it starts to get kind of dicey, is not every community with even within the same builder is created equal. If there's a community that's struggling a little bit or there's some standing inventory, then they're going to open up the purse strings. They're going to start paying big agent commissions. And if they don't feel they need you, like that North Lake area out there, Lennar, I don't think they've been paying commissions out there for a while. So it just really all depends, unfortunately. And that's why, and we'll talk about that kind of as we move into 2.0 here. It's why you want to stay in contact with the agents out in the field. Most brokers, I know I'm kind of skipping around a little bit here, but we'll get it all in, I promise. Most builders out there, they have what we call like a VIP realtor program. And basically all that is realtors that have been in their office before. They've got them in the database. I think we all know that, marketing to your database is one of the most cost-effective and efficient ways to get business. So they want to load up that database with as many brokers and agents as possible, and they'll put you into their VIP program. And all that basically means is when they get a standing inventory house or a house that canceled Thursday and they need to sell it this weekend, they're going to throw a ton of money at it. They're going to contact you. Back in the old days, we used to fax out a flyer of the home of the week. And I know that's dating myself, but the same principle applies. So what you always want to do is, if there's a builder, especially that you work with a lot, or an area that you work with, get familiar with those agents out in the field. Ask them if you can register if they have a VIP realtor program, and keep in touch with those people, because trust me, they're agents too. They work on commission just like you do, and they want to sell a house just like you do. So when they get that house, they're going to be reaching out to their short list, and you want to make sure that you're on it. But yes, it is not uncommon to where we're paying commissions today, we're not paying commissions tomorrow. One of the things we've done is we'll offer bonuses and commissions just on particular homes, and that's kind of a pitfall you have to be aware of as well. You might have a builder that lists a standing inventory on the MLS, and you go into the community and your buyer wants a different location. They're only paying commission on the standing inventory house that's listed in the MLS. Again, that gets back to thinking like a home builder. They want to sell the homes that are finished first.
Well,
so that's
I have an analogy. It's kind of like Taylor Swift. I mean, she's gone through so many boyfriends, sometimes you're in, sometimes you're out. Now it's Travis Kelce. So who knows, right? I had to throw that out there.
And the difference is Taylor's going to write a song for you when it's over.
Right?
So that was number one, was don't make the number one mistake, right? So you want to make sure you're registering your clients ahead of time. A lot of these agents, if you're on their VIP list, they'll allow you to register online, which is a great option. During COVID, a lot of builders allowed that. Some of them still do with their online chat agents. So it's possible you can register some of them online. You can send an email, you can do a phone call if you've got a great relationship with that agent. But again, at the end of the day, the industry go-to is always you need to accompany them on the first visit. But if you've got that relationship with that on-site agent, you might be able to shortcut the line, which is always good when you can. The number two tip that I had mentioned, and I've said it a couple times here already, is think like a home builder. Think like a home builder basically means what? Well, the first thing that everyone always wants to negotiate is price. The last thing a home builder wants to negotiate is price. And the reason why is we're selling an entire neighborhood. We're not selling one house. So if I cut Tom a deal on my plan one for $40,000 off, guess what? That appraiser is going to make me answer for that appraisal for every plan one for the next 6 months. The last thing we want to do is adjust the price, because it affects every other sale after that. We're selling neighborhoods. We are selling them one at a time, typically the homes, but we do sell neighborhoods. So that's a big difference. Think like a home builder. Get incentives out of them, right? If you've got a cash buyer that doesn't have financing, ask them to throw in some flat work or landscape the backyard, which is something you typically don't get with a new home. And they'll love to do that, by the way, because guess what? Most builders have anywhere from a 20 to 50% markup on their backyard landscaping. I've seen as high as 100 because it's a custom option. So if it's a 50% markup and they're giving you a $10,000 incentive, it's really only costing them $5,000. They will love to do a backyard landscaping package for you instead of financing credits. Trust me. And then the last thing, which we're going to kind of segue into our 2.0 here, is your fourth quarter strategy. As I mentioned earlier, this is deal time for home builders. It's the end of the year. They need to make their numbers. This is where you're going to get the money. And for those of you who were on last time, you may recall, I personally approved over $100,000 on concessions in the fourth quarter last year on multiple occasions. $100,000. Try getting that out of a resale buyer. It's not going to happen.
On a single property?
On a single property. It was $1 million.
Wow.
It was a 1.1 house, but you're still talking 10%, right? So that's not chump change. And a lot of times, builders can bury a lot of that as far as options, including them into the house and so on. It does get to a point to where, of course, your lenders start questioning concessions, and there's typically a 6% max on FHA, for example. But if it's things like options that are thrown into the price of the house, those totally fly under the radar. Any questions on that?
No, I think you're doing great, man. Let's keep going.
Okay, so we're going to keep rolling. So far you've done everything right? You've got your clients, they see the value in a new home, you've pre-registered them, or you've gone in with your client. Everything is great. You've got this big incentive. It's going to get your buyer from an 8% interest rate to a 5.5% interest rate. Makes all the difference of them getting to a house or not. But there's a catch. Does anybody know what that catch usually is? So in every negotiation, we're all salespeople, we know this. In every negotiation, somebody gets something, ideally, in a successful negotiation. And home builders will tie their incentives to using their preferred lender. Anybody come across that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, all the time. Now, that's what a builder gets out of the deal. Now, I want to address a couple things on that preferred lender relationship. So one of the first questions people always ask me is, do builders make money on my loan? Is that why they want me to go with their lender? The answer in most cases is no. Now, there are still some companies out there that own their own mortgage company, like KB Home is KBHS, their home services. So some of them, the bigger ones do, but most of them don't. I work with smaller builders, and I have 5 preferred lenders in my stable, and not one of them is affiliated with the builder beyond that relationship. The builder is paying all that money to have the buyers use one of our 5 lenders. And the reason we do that, what we get out of it, is we get 2 things. We get, call it control over the transaction. I like to say we get accurate information, because you've all probably experienced this. You've got a buyer that got pre-qualified with Rocket Mortgage or something, right? Some online deal, and the loan's not as strong as you think it is. Well, home builders, especially if someone is building a house for you, they're personalizing that house, right? They're making it look like that beautiful cabin behind Tom over there, right? Well, not everybody likes that look. So what happens is, home builders are spending tens of thousands of dollars to personalize a home for a buyer. Guess what? They want to make sure you're going to be able to cross the finish line. And by having their buyer in the queue with one of their preferred lenders, they know they can trust that information, that accuracy of information. They also get accountability. If you're a lender and you want to be on a builder account, you're doing floor time, you're on weekly meetings every week, and you're getting pounded by the division president, the escrow coordinator, and myself. So there is a level of accountability there. That's what home builders get out of that relationship. They're not looking to make money on your loan. It is costing them money to offer that incentive, that relationship, but the value of accuracy of information and accountability is what they're getting out of that deal.
I've got one little side benefit to that, and that's appraisals. If a buyer goes out and gets his own loan and they bring in their own appraiser, I think there's going to be a risk there. Can you speak to appraisals real quick, Tony?
Sure. And that's a great point, Tom. I mean, as I mentioned, we live and die by the appraisers, right? If we cut you a deal on one, we're going to have to deal with that. So home builders are very cautious with making sure that they are monitoring their values wire to wire, start to finish. Sure, sometimes we come up short. It just happens in changing markets. But and so too, we're not allowed to stack the deck. I mean, it's the case with any appraiser. So typically what happens is they will allow 2 inside comparables within our community and at least 3 from the outside. So even if we happen to have a community that's just, higher than everybody else, it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to stack the deck with just comparables from inside that community. They have to have the bulk of the comparables are from outside the community. But having a preferred lender is important in a lot of ways that works with builder when it comes to the appraisal, because VA loans, for example, a lot of people don't realize this, but VA, they take care of their vets. They require that the soil is prepped before a foundation for termites, for pests. There's a whole gauntlet that has to happen. You've got project approval letters of notification that have to go out with a lot of these appraisals too. So it's a lot more involved than just looking at comps on a resale. So there is definitely value with having an appraiser that's been there. Now, when the laws changed several years ago, we can't handpick our appraisers either. But what builders do is they'll have an appraisal panel. So we can pick a panel. We might have 5 or 8 appraisers on a panel. And then when an appraisal gets up for order, it goes to one of those 8. We can't control who it is, but it's going to be one of those 8 in the panel. And if it's someone that just doesn't get it, we have them removed from the panel. So does that answer your question, Tom?
Yeah, we're good. I'm sorry. We got about 3, 4, 5 minutes. So
I know. So I want to go through some of this stuff real quick. I'm going to go fast. So I just want to make sure that we all understand the nature of the preferred lender relationship. Now, here's how lenders get pulled for that. Has anybody heard of the term portfolio products before? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So for those of you that haven't, the simplest way that I sum it up is portfolio products are basically what I refer to as a private reserve. So if I'm Wells Fargo Bank and Tom is a broker and Tom has access to my Wells Fargo Bank products, why is Patrick going to come to me instead of Tom if Tom has all the same products? Well, the answer is Tom doesn't have all the same products. These big banks and lending institutions have what they call portfolio products. They're only available direct through that lending institution. That is where the secret sauce is for a lot of these lenders. When a lender comes to me and wants to get on my team, they're always going to talk about service first. And I stop them right there and say, look, I expect good service. That's just the point of entry. Okay. Take that one off the table. What products do you have? I can tell you right now, I have a half a dozen zero down products for people based on what they do for a living. There, of course, is the military, the first time buyers. I have got doctor's loans. I mean, if I'm in an area that's got a nursing facility like the one in Natomas that's going in where ARCO used to be, we started loading up on doctor's loans. Guess what? We sold a whole bunch to nurses and doctors at zero down. Those loans also allow for higher debt to income ratios because they know that people in those fields have a lot of student debt, but they're also going to be making a whole lot of money once they get to work. So portfolio products, builders search out portfolio products. Chances are they're going to have products available that the lender you work with doesn't. Okay. Any questions there?
nope.
Okay. So I'm just looking at my notes, trying to skip through here, be efficient. Let's see. We know what buyers get out of it. Of course, they get incentives. Sellers get accountability. Okay. So I know one of the challenges is if you're a good agent, I know you all are, before you start putting someone in a car and wasting your time, you got them pre-qualified already. And I know that gets to be a bit of a challenge because you walk in with your buyer that's already been pre-qualified by your lender. In order to get these big incentives, you're going to have to change gears, right? You're going to have to switch horses if you want your buyers to get those incentives. And your lenders typically are not going to be able to match the $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. So they're going to lose the loan. That is unfortunately just a part of the process. Now, here's the good news. Let's say you go in there and you talk to a lender on site and you decide not to buy a house there. Your buyer decides not to buy a house there. That lender can actually help you someplace else. That is actually part of the deal because the lenders know that part of the trade-off working with a builder is that they're not going to get every deal, but they also know they're going to pick up some that don't buy there. So if you have a lender that you're working with, I would highly suggest that you get your lender, if they're not already what we call a builder-centric lender that works with builders, this is where it comes down to thinking like a home builder again. You need to get your lender to commit to giving your buyer an incentive. Every single lender I work with on my resale transactions kicks in at least a half a point of the loan amount. Now, that's not 40, 50,000, but it's a little bit to help. You get your seller to come up a little bit. You get your lender to throw in a little bit. You tie them to using your preferred lender, just like the home builders do. There's no one that says you can't do that. Use my lender and you're going to get a $10,000 credit to buy down your interest rate. So if you're working with sellers, you can still take a page from the home builder's book when it comes to your preferred lender relationships. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So last couple things here, and there was a bunch I left here on the table. My apologies, but I just want to throw this last one out there. Not everybody works with buyers, of course. So how is working with builders going to benefit you if you're working with sellers? Tom, I know you know this answer because this is how you and I met. So Tom and I met probably 20 years ago. It was in another market shift, and Tom came into one of my communities and he was offering to list our contingent homes for us. And he was offering to give a little bit of a referral fee to the on-site agent. Some big builders have a problem with that. My smaller builders normally don't. If you are consistent and you are building that relationship with those agents in the field in the new homes communities, even if you don't bring them a buyer, better if you do, okay? But if you're a hustler, they want to get paid too. We all know the fuse is usually pretty short on a contingency when you're working with a home builder, and that on-site agent wants to put that listing with an agent that's going to get that home in escrow as quickly as possible. So even if you're not working with buyers, networking with those on-site agents and getting on their VIP list and everything else keeps you top of mind with them, and it will help you get some of those listings. It's how Tom and I met, and here we are 20 plus years later. Does anybody have any questions? I know we're a couple of minutes over, and like I said, I left a whole lot behind here, but I want to make sure if there's any questions, I can try to get those knocked out first.
Just real quick, you mentioned contingent. Like, I didn't understand that contingent homes on the builder, right? Like, I typically no inspections, but I'm based on a loan, or maybe you can.
Yeah. So what we'll get is, especially now, we'll get buyers from the Bay Area, for example. They've got a house to sell and they want to buy our house, but they need to sell their house first. And a lot of home builders don't like that proposition because, again, we're building a house for you. We're personalizing a house for you. And unfortunately, a lot of the times with the buyers, or the sellers rather, I guess seller/buyer, it doesn't work out either, because if you're buying a house from us, it's going to take 6 months to build. That seller is typically going to want you in and out of that, your transaction within 60 days, which means now you either have to try to negotiate a long rent back or move twice. And that sucks. Nobody likes that, right? Now, this comes back to those portfolio products. Now Tom works with an agent, a loan officer for North American Funding, which my brother actually works there. He's the regional sales manager. They have a ridiculously incredible portfolio product there for this exact situation. This competes against the Open Doors. It competes against any discount listing service, and it competes against a bridge loan. What they will basically do is they will buy the new house cash. So your buyer gets to go in with the power of being a cash buyer. And we know that's powerful, right? Especially in the fourth quarter when all the deals are on the quick close homes. The lending institution will go in, buy the new home cash, and then they will rent it back to you while you sell your existing home. It's pretty friggin' incredible. I know they've pitched this to the big EXP office down in Walnut Creek, and they've had probably 20 deals in the last month through this program. But that is, again, a portfolio product. You're not going to find that anywhere. Turning your buyer from the worst deal on the stack because you're contingent to the best deal on the stack because you're cash, I think we'd all agree is pretty powerful. Does that answer your question, Eric?
Yeah. And then when do they want to turn it over to a listing agent? What do you mean by that? When would they want to actually turn one of their inventory over to an outside agent?
So, it just all depends on the builder. I mean, oftentimes a buyer, what we see is someone will come in and they haven't even listed their house yet. They're going out and I want to find the right house first before I put my house on the market. And there's another interesting thing that is unique to the new home sector that is not typically in resale, and that is our reservation process. Has anybody heard of that before? So a reservation is just a real simple hold, right? You're out looking at houses. Remember, that on-site sales agent only gets paid if you buy there. So they're going to try to close you while you're there, right? That's just their job. So the reservation actually is a unique tool that allows someone a little free time to think about it. In my experience, the number one objection I've heard from people is, well, we want to think about it. Perfect. In new homes, we have something designed to allow you to do just that. It's called a reservation. It's a non-committal hold. We're going to tie up the home for you for 3 to 5 days. It gets you time to pre-qualify, shop our competition, whatever you need to do in our think about it process. Your buyer walks out of there feeling like they bought a home and they've got a little bit of breathing room knowing that they're not completely committed. Now, the one bonus tip I'll give you for that, and as an industry, we haven't quite seemed to figure this out, tell them to bring a checkbook. I know almost nobody even carries checkbooks anymore, even has checking accounts. But the only other alternative to leave a hold is to some sort of, electronic thing, which a few builders have done, but then there's fees involved with that and everything else. What I generally do, we fill out the reservation form. If the buyers don't have their checkbook with them, I fill out all the paperwork, send them home with a copy. Tell them when they get home to their checkbook, dust it off, open it up, write out a check to the title company, take a picture of it and send it to me. And with that picture, I will hold their house for 3 to 5 days. We just need some form of consideration. But take advantage of that reservation. Tom, I think you sent something. You want to know who the lender was? My lender over there, his name is Nolan Matucci. It's North American Funding. And
Do you mind typing that into the chat real quick?
yeah, let's see.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Let's see.
So while you're typing, I'd like to ask you a question. I think this is something that is awesome right now. And one action item that we can do from time to time, I'll go out to brand new home subdivisions. About a month ago, I was out in Granite Bay and I was waiting for my wife. I was a little bit early for dinner, and there was a brand new home subdivision there. So I said, hey, I'm going to go tour this. And I asked the sales agent, do you mind if I just take a few photos and snap a quick video with the pricing? And she was like, absolutely, go ahead. So I shot a quick video as I went through that home, just out front and this and that. And hey, are you looking for a brand new home? We've got this amazing property. It's 2,900 square feet. It's in Granite Bay, blah, 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 blah. Boom. I got so many hits on that, but that's something that we can do. It's simple. And I think that it's providing value. And I think that's a great idea. So
it's
Tony,
absolutely.
Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, let me just add on to that real quick. So the one thing in there that you said that I really like is probably one of the most important things is that you ask the builder first. Most builders don't care. Some of them do. We have had situations where, again, it comes down to that procuring cause. So, we'll get an agent that goes and does a nice drone video or whatever, and they market it in their social media. The buyer shows up, buys a house. The agent finds out later that it was because they saw their video. And guess what? Did they register that client up front? No. So then it does end up causing a little bit of a problem for everybody. So what Tom did is absolutely correct. Talk to the builder first. Make sure that you have their permission to do it. And by all means, use it to generate some leads. Granite Bay is hot. Were you at the Blue Mountain community out there, that new one? Was it the Glen?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Did you type that phone number in the memo? I don't know if it showed up here yet.
Yeah, it's showing up on my side. You guys see it? 916-955-8715.
Okay, perfect. Got it. Okay, well, hey, Tony, if anyone wants to reach out and get a hold of you, what's the best way?
I would say that EXP email, Tom. So Ammirato@exp.com.
Okay.
Or Anthony. I think it's Anthony Ammirato. Or, let me just give you my phone number here. Let's just do that. Bam, there it is. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to help. If you're having problems with a builder, let me know. I can maybe give you some tips on it. But I promise you, if you register your clients up front, you will have close to zero problems with a home builder.
Tony, as always, this was amazing, packed with value. Thank you so much. Okay, we all got our inspiration. Now it's time to put in a perspiration.
Sorry, I didn't get to everything, but maybe next time.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Thanks, y'all. Have a good weekend.
Take care.
Tony.
Let's go. See ya. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Does anybody remember, Patrick, what the number one mistake is that most resale agents make when working with brokers? I think you got this right the first time.
Yeah, you send them out there without you, and they sign in before you have a chance.
Absolutely correct. That is the number one mistake in my career. I have seen more and more and more is, agents don't educate their buyers to not go out to the new homes community without them. And I know it's tough. Sometimes they're on their way to, grandma's house or Home Depot and they want to stop in. Don't do it. It's a bad move.